The city of Valoria lay under a shroud of twilight, where the sun never fully rose, and the moon cast a pale silver over cobblestone streets. Mist curled through alleyways, hiding secrets in every shadow. Dawn limped through the empty square, his breath ragged, and his right shoulder ached where his collarbone had been shattered days ago. He moved with the careful caution of a man hunted, yet his mind burned with questions. Who had attacked him? And why had his closest partner, Saren, vanished without a trace? Valoria was a city ruled by whispers and fear. Merchants spoke in hushed tones, courtiers traded secrets like gold, and sorcery lingered in the air like a perfume that made the nose burn. Dawn knew these streets better than anyone, yet tonight, every shadow seemed alive, shifting in ways that made him shiver. He stopped at the fountain in the square's center, water still and black as ink, and traced a hand along its edge. Memories of Saren pressed against him, sharp and heavy. She had been his partner in business and in secrets, a woman whose mind was as keen as a blade, and whose loyalty he had trusted without question. Now, the echo of her laughter was gone, replaced by a silence that gnawed at him. His thoughts were interrupted by a sound, a soft, deliberate footstep against the cobblestones. Dawn tensed, his eyes scanning the fog. From the mist emerged a figure draped in dark, flowing robes, her eyes glowing faintly like embers in the gloom. She moved with the confidence of someone who belonged to the shadows, yet her presence seemed to light the square in ways the moon could not. "Dawn," she said, her voice smooth, melodic, yet carrying a weight of authority that made him instinctively bow his head. "I know why you are here." He took a step back, instinctively raising a hand as if to defend himself. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "How do you know my name?" The woman's lips curved into a faint smile. "I am Leora," she said. "I have been waiting for you. I know about your partner, Saren, and I know who shattered your collarbone." Dawn's heart skipped a beat. His pulse thundered in his ears. You know?" he asked, his voice trembling with both hope and fear. Tell me now." Leora's gaze softened, but her tone remained firm. "I can tell you, but only if you are ready to face the truth. The one who attacked you is closer than you think. And Saren's disappearance, it is tied to something far older than either of you." Dawn's jaw tightened. He wanted to trust her, yet he felt the weight of betrayal pressing against his chest. He had learned, long ago, that in Valoria, trust was a dangerous commodity. Still, the ache in his shoulder and the emptiness of Saren's absence drove him to nod. "I'm ready," he said. Leora extended her hand. "Come with me. There are places you must see, trials you must face. If you seek Saren, you cannot do it alone." Dawn hesitated, his pride warring with the desperate need to find answers. Finally, he took her hand. The moment their fingers touched, a shiver ran through him, as if some hidden current of energy had sparked to life. He felt a strange warmth, a connection that was at once comforting and unsettling. Leora did not let go, as she led him into the mist-laden streets. The journey through Valoria was silent, except for the sound of their footsteps. Dawn noticed how the shadows seemed to bend around her, forming shapes that whispered in languages he could not understand. Leora walked with ease, as though she had walked these streets countless times before. At last, they arrived at a narrow archway that opened into a forest of blackened trees, their branches twisting like skeletal hands. "This is Nirowin," Leora said, gesturing to the forest. "It is a place of power, but also of danger. Saren's disappearance is tied to the forces that dwell here. If you are to find her, you must step into the forest and face its trials." Dawn swallowed hard. The forest exuded a strange energy, one that made his bones ache and his head swim. "What kind of trials?" he asked. "Not all are physical," Leora said, her voice softening. "Many are of the heart and mind. You will face visions of your past, your regrets, and the choices that brought you here. Only by confronting them Will you have a chance to save her? Dawn's chest tightened. He had long buried his fears, his failures, and the guilt that came from decisions made too quickly or too selfishly. Now, those memories pressed against him like the walls of a collapsing building. He wondered if he had the strength to face them. The first step into the forest was like crossing a threshold into another world. The mist clung to his clothes, and the air smelled of iron and earth. Shadows moved at the edges of his vision, and every sound, branch snapping, leaf rustling set his nerves on edge. Leora moved beside him, a calm presence amidst the swirling unease. "Dawn," she said, "do not try to fight what comes. The forest will show you the truth, whether you are ready or not. But remember this: fear is the first trap. Doubt is the second. Trust yourself, and trust me." He nodded, though his mind raced with questions. How much of Leora could he trust? Could she truly guide him to Saren, or was this another web of deception? His hand brushed his collarbone instinctively. The bone was healing, but a faint glow lingered beneath the skin, a dull reminder of the attack and of forces he could not yet understand. As they moved deeper, the forest seemed to close around them. Whispers drifted through the trees, words that sounded like fragments of Saren's voice. Dawn's heart ached with longing, and a surge of fear and hope collided within him. He could almost feel Saren's presence. Yet it remained just out of reach, like a candle flickering in the wind. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled. A shadow moved among the trees, darker than the night itself. Dawn instinctively reached for a hidden dagger, but Leora stopped him with a gentle touch. "Patience," she said. "Do not strike yet. This is the first test. Do not let anger or fear guide your hand." The shadow coalesced into a figure, a spectral form, its face obscured, yet its movements deliberate, almost human. It advanced toward them, and Dawn's pulse quickened. His shoulder throbbed with pain, but he forced himself to stand tall. The figure spoke, its voice a distorted echo. "Dawn, you were warned. You cannot save her alone." Dawn swallowed hard. "Who are you? What have you done to Saren?" he demanded, his voice trembling with equal parts anger and despair. The figure laughed softly, a sound that echoed like wind through hollow halls. "Not I, but she, and the choices you have made. Soon, you will see the truth. And then, you will understand the cost." With that, the shadow dissipated, leaving only the mist and the heavy silence of the forest. Dawn's chest heaved, his mind racing. He wanted answers, yet the forest had offered none. Only a promise of trials, and the shadow of Saren's sacrifice. Leora turned to him, her eyes reflecting the pale light of the mist. "This is only the beginning," she said. "The path to Saren will test you in ways you cannot imagine. And Dawn, trust me when I say that the next choice you make will change everything." Dawn looked at the forest, at the twisting trees and the mist that hid unknown dangers. His body ached, his mind reeled, and his heart ached for the woman who had vanished, the partner who had shattered his world. Yet beneath the fear and pain, a spark of determination flared. He would face whatever the forest held. He would find Saren, and as they stepped deeper into the shadows of Neruin, a faint, almost imperceptible glow rose from his collarbone, pulsing like a heartbeat. A whisper floated through the mist, carried by a wind that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Only when you answer for your pain will she return." Dawn froze, the weight of the words pressing down on him. He knew then that this journey would demand more than strength or skill. It would demand his courage, his heart, and perhaps even his soul. The forest awaited. The forest of Neruin stretched endlessly before Dawn and Leora, a living maze of twisted black trees and creeping mist. Every step seemed heavier than the last, and every sound, the rustle of leaves, the sigh of wind, felt like it carried a hidden message. Dawn's shoulder ached with a dull throb, the faint glow of his collarbone still pulsing beneath his skin. Each pulse reminded him of the attack, of Saren's absence, and of the unknown trials that awaited. Leora moved beside him with a calm precision, her robes brushing the fog-laden ground. There was a quiet authority in her presence, a sense that the forest itself obeyed her in ways Dawn could not yet understand. He tried to focus on the path, but his mind kept drifting to Saren, to the partner who had vanished and left him wounded, both in body and spirit. "This forest tests more than strength," Leora said softly, her voice carrying over the whispering trees. "It tests your mind and heart. You cannot rely on force alone." Dawn glanced at her, his jaw tight. "Then what am I supposed to do?" he asked. "How do I save Saren if I can't even fight what's in front of me?" R. Leora's eyes softened. "By facing yourself. Every fear, every regret, every choice that brought you here will take shape in this place. Only if you confront them will you have a chance to find her." The words made Dawn uneasy, but he had little choice. He took a deep breath and followed her deeper into the forest. The mist thickened, curling around their legs like living tendrils. Shapes seemed to move at the edges of his vision, faint figures that vanished when he blinked. His heart pounded, and the memories of the attack that shattered his collarbone pressed against him with sharp intensity. After hours of walking, they reached a small clearing. In the center stood a mirror, tall and framed with dark vines that pulsed with faint light. The surface of the mirror shimmered, reflecting not just Dawn's image, but flickers of other things, moments from his past, choices he had made, and mistakes he had tried to forget. "This is your first trial," Leora said. "Look into the mirror, Dawn. Face what it shows. Do not turn away." Dawn swallowed hard. He had fought against regret his whole life, burying it beneath ambition and determination. But now, standing before the mirror, he felt a shiver of fear. With trembling hands, he stepped closer and gazed into the surface. At first, he saw himself as he was now. Scarred, tired, and uncertain. Then, the reflection shifted. He saw Saren, not smiling, but frightened, her hands bound by ethereal chains. He saw himself, moments before the attack, walking away from her warning choices made too quickly. Words left unspoken, the mirror whispered, and he could hear her voice. "Dawn, why didn't you protect me?" Pain pierced his chest. He wanted to shout, to reach into the mirror and pull her free, but his hands passed through the glass as if it were water. Tears stung his eyes. I didn't know," he murmured. "I would have done anything to protect you." The reflection shifted again, showing him not Saren, but Leora. She appeared calm, yet there was a sorrow in her eyes, a burden he could not yet understand. His heart tightened, an unfamiliar warmth blooming in the midst of his fear. "You feel it, don't you?" Leora's voice was gentle, yet insistent. "The bond that grows in the face of shared struggle. It is not weakness, Dawn. It is the strength that will guide you through what comes next." Dawn blinked, looking away from the mirror. "But I cannot let go of Saren," he said, his voice cracking. She is part of me, and you are part of her," Leora replied. "But if you wish to save her, you must see beyond yourself. The forest does not care for fear or desire. It only shows the truth. Face it, or it will consume you." He nodded slowly, steeling himself. He turned back to the mirror and allowed the images to come, to pierce him with their truth. He saw the moments of betrayal, not by Saren, but by himself, times he had ignored warnings, acted out of pride, or hesitated when action was needed. And he saw Saren again, chained and alone, a silent plea for help etched in her expression. The forest seemed to respond to his resolve. The mist parted slightly, and the vines around the mirror loosened, revealing a faint path that led deeper into Nirowine. Leora stepped forward. "You have faced the first truth," she said. "But many more await. Each trial will demand a part of your soul. Are you prepared for that?" Dawn swallowed, feeling the weight of his choices pressing down on him. "I have no choice," he said. "I will do whatever it takes to find her." They followed the path, the forest growing darker, the mist thicker. Shapes moved in the shadows, whispering doubts and fears. Dawn's pulse quickened. At one point, a figure stepped out from the mist. A dark creature. Its form half man, half shadow. Eyes glowing red. Its voice was like grinding stone. "You are not worthy," it said. "She is not yours to save. Turn back and leave the darkness behind." Dawn raised his hand, ready to strike, but Leora touched his arm. "Do not fight blindly," she warned. "You must face what it shows, not what it is." The creature's form shimmered, and suddenly Dawn saw not a monster, but himself, a version of himself consumed by fear and anger, unable to act, letting Saren vanish forever. Pain lanced through him, and he fell to his knees. "No," he whispered. "I will not become that man. I will not fail her." The shadow recoiled, hissing, and then dissolved into the mist. Dawn's hands shook, but a sense of resolve settled in his chest. Leora's hand rested on his shoulder, steadying him. "You are stronger than you think," she said. "And yet, the forest is only beginning to test you." They continued walking until they reached a river, its water glowing with an otherworldly light. Across the river, the path seemed to vanish, swallowed by darkness. Dawn looked at the water, uncertainty gnawing at him. "How do we cross?" he asked. Leora's eyes shone faintly. "The river responds to truth," she said. "You must reveal what you fear most, or it will not let you pass." Dawn hesitated. The truth he feared was simple, yet unbearable. He feared losing Saren forever. He feared that no matter what he did, the choices he had made had already doomed her. He closed his eyes and spoke aloud, his voice trembling. "I fear that I cannot save her, that she will be lost because of me." The river pulsed with light, and a bridge of mist formed, delicate yet solid enough to cross. Dawn swallowed hard, stepping onto the bridge with Leora beside him. With each step, he felt the bond between them strengthen, subtle and undeniable. He had begun to trust her, not fully, but enough to rely on her guidance. As they reached the other side, the mist thickened again, and a low whisper drifted on the wind, chilling him to the bone. "Soon, you will see the cost of your choices. Soon, you will have to decide what you are willing to lose." Dawn froze, the words echoing in his mind. He knew the forest would demand more, but he had no choice but to keep moving forward. Leora's hand found his again, a reassuring anchor in the shifting shadows. "We are close," she said softly, her eyes reflecting the pale light of the river. "Saren is not far, but the path ahead will test not only your courage, but your heart. Be ready, Dawn. Be ready for what you must do to save her, and for what you might lose along the way." Dawn nodded, feeling a mix of fear, hope, and something deeper. Something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. He would face the trials. Whatever they demanded, he would save Saren, or he would die trying. And somewhere in the shadows, he felt a spark of something else, a bond with Leora, fragile and uncertain, yet impossible to ignore. The forest seemed to lean closer, listening, waiting. And as they stepped deeper into Nuruwine, the faint glow of Dawn's collarbone pulsed once more, a heartbeat in the darkness, and a whisper brushed against his mind. "The next choice you make will change everything." The forest of Nuruwine finally opened into a clearing that revealed a massive, crumbling castle. Its walls were dark stone, worn by centuries, with ivy crawling like veins along its surface. A thin mist clung to the towers, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and old magic. Dawn stopped at the edge of the clearing, his shoulder aching faintly from the memory of the attack that had shattered his collarbone. "This place," he whispered, voice low. "It feels alive." Leora's eyes scanned the castle, her face unreadable. "It is," she said. "Every stone holds memory. Every shadow tests those who enter. This is where Saren is held. But be warned, these walls will show you not only what is real, but also what you fear most." Dawn swallowed. His hands itched for a weapon, though he had learned in the forest that violence alone would not save Saren. He needed clarity, courage, and a heart strong enough to face whatever illusions the castle would cast. Leora stepped beside him, her presence steady, and placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Are you ready?" she asked. Dawn nodded. "I have no choice." The massive gates of the castle creaked as they pushed them open. The halls inside were dim, lit by flickering torches that seemed to burn with an unnatural, cold flame. Shadows moved along the walls, twisting into shapes of faces, hands, and eyes that seemed to follow their every step. Dawn felt a chill crawl down his spine. "This place feeds on doubt," Leora said, her voice echoing softly. "The illusions will try to turn you against yourself. Against me. Against Saren. Trust only what you feel is true in your heart." They moved through the halls, and soon, Dawn saw the first of many visions. A figure appeared ahead Saren, standing before him. Eyes full of anger and betrayal, she held a dagger, its tip pointing at him. "Dawn," the vision hissed. "You abandoned me. You were weak. You left me to face the darkness alone." Dawn's heart clenched. "Saren, no, The vision vanished before he could reach her. Dawn sank to his knees, overwhelmed with guilt and pain. Leora crouched beside him, placing a calming hand on his shoulder. "The castle will not let you rest," she said gently. "You must face these visions. They are not real, but the truth they carry is your fear of failing those you love, and your guilt over choices you cannot change." Dawn clenched his fists. "I will not let this place break me," he said, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. "I will save Saren, no matter what it takes." They pressed onward, passing corridors lined with mirrors and shadows. Each reflection showed a different version of himself, some proud and heroic, others cowardly or cruel. His chest tightened with every glance. In one mirror, he saw himself walking away from Saren in the alley where she had first vanished, his collarbone already broken. In another, he saw Saren smiling at him, alive and free, and his heart leapt before the image dissolved into darkness. "This is the hardest trial yet," Leora whispered. "Not the monsters outside, but the monsters within. Face them, or they will consume you." Dawn closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He let the images wash over him, the mistakes, the regrets, the fear. He allowed himself to feel them fully, to understand that running or hiding would change nothing. The castle trembled as he accepted his past, the shadows writhing around him, as if testing his resolve. When he opened his eyes, a new figure appeared this time. It was Leora. She stood before him, her face soft and kind, yet her eyes carried an unspoken sorrow. Dawn felt an unfamiliar ache in his chest. I don't know if I can do this," he whispered. "You can," Leora said. "I am here. You are not alone. But you must trust yourself. And your heart." Dawn nodded slowly, feeling the bond between them grow stronger. The fear of failure remained. But for the first time, he felt a clarity he had not known in weeks. He reached for her hand, and she let him take it. A silent promise that they would face the trials together. As they moved deeper into the castle, they entered a hall filled with mirrors. Each mirror reflected a different path, a different choice. Dawn saw himself with Saren, with Leora. With neither, every possible outcome of his decisions lay before him. His heart pounded. The choices seemed impossible, and the weight of responsibility pressed down like the stones of the castle themselves. A voice echoed from the shadows. "You cannot save them both." Dawn's hands shook. I don't understand," he whispered. "You must choose," the voice said. "The one you love will live. The other will remain trapped forever. Choose now, or lose both." Fear and desperation clawed at him. He thought of Saren, bound by the curse, the partner who had risked everything to protect him. And then he thought of Leora, the woman who had guided him through the forest, who had stood beside him when the shadows tried to crush him. His heart ached with the impossible choice. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. I will not choose yet," he said aloud. I will find a way to save both of them. I refuse to let the curse win. The hall trembled. The mirrors cracked, and shadows swirled around him, whispering doubts and fears. But Dawn stood firm, his hand holding Leora's. She squeezed his hand in silent support, and he felt a surge of courage. Suddenly, a hidden door opened at the end of the hall. Light spilled through, warm and golden, contrasting with the cold shadows of the castle. Dawn and Leora approached it, the glow revealing a staircase that led downward. The air grew thick with magic, and Dawn felt a pull in his chest, the glow of his collarbone pulsing in response. This is it, Leora said softly. The chamber where Saren is held. But beware, the curse guarding her is strong. It will test every part of you. Your courage, your heart, and your loyalty. Dawn's pulse quickened. He nodded, his determination hardening. I am ready, he said. They descended the staircase, the shadows thickening with each step. When they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a vast chamber. Chains of light, faint and shimmering, hung in the air, forming a cage around a figure in the center. Dawn's breath caught. It was Saren. She looked weak, her hair tangled, her eyes wide with both fear and recognition. Dawn, she whispered, her voice trembling. You came. Dawn took a step forward. Of course I came, he said, his voice firm. I will get you out of here. I promise. But the chains of light pulsed, and the air shimmered. A dark figure materialized above Saren, a spectral queen, her face beautiful but cruel, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. You dare enter my domain? The queen said, her voice echoing through the chamber. You have faced the trials, yet you are not ready. Choose wisely, mortal. Sacrifice, or lose all that you love. Dawn clenched his fists, the ache in his shoulder forgotten in the surge of determination. I will not let you harm her, he said, voice strong. I will face whatever you demand. I will save Saren, no matter the cost. The queen's lips curved into a smile, cold and knowing. Very well, she said, but remember this. Sometimes the heart must fracture before it can heal. Only then will true love and redemption be possible. The chains of light around Saren pulsed brighter, and the room seemed to spin. Dawn felt the weight of every choice pressing down on him. He glanced at Leora, whose eyes met his, filled with both fear and silent encouragement. Together, they would face the curse, and together, they would fight for Saren. Dawn took a deep breath and stepped forward, the glow from his collarbone intensifying. The queen's laughter echoed in his ears, and shadows twisted around them, testing his resolve, his courage, and the bonds of love that tied him to both women. And in that moment, Dawn realized that the choice he feared might not be about who to save, it might be about who he could trust with his heart. The chamber shimmered with the pale light of chains that held Saren suspended in the air. The spectral queen hovered above, her eyes glowing with an unnatural, cold fire. Dawn's shoulder throbbed faintly, his collarbone still pulsing with the faint glow that had guided him through the forest and castle. His heart beat rapidly, not from fear, but from the weight of the impossible choices before him. Dawn, Leora whispered, her hand brushing against his. Whatever happens, trust yourself. Trust your heart. The curse will try to bend your fears, but it cannot touch what is real between us. He nodded, gripping her hand tightly. I won't fail, he said. I will save her. I will save both of you, if I can. The spectral queen's laughter filled the chamber, echoing like the wind through 1,000 empty halls. You are brave, mortal, she said. But bravery is not enough. The heart must fracture before it can heal. Only through pain will the path to redemption open. Dawn's pulse quickened, but he refused to show fear. He stepped forward, the glow of his collarbone intensifying with each step. I am ready, he said, his voice steady. I will face whatever you demand. The queen's eyes narrowed. Then prove it. Choose what you value most. Sacrifice, or all that you love, will be lost forever. Dawn felt the weight of the world pressing on his chest. He looked at Saren, hanging helplessly in the chains, her eyes wide with hope and fear. And then he looked at Leora, standing beside him, her strength and guidance having carried him through trials that had tested every part of him. He realized, with a painful clarity, that the true trial was not strength or courage, it was love, trust, and the ability to face loss without letting it destroy him. He closed his eyes, taking a deep, steadying breath. The memories of the forest, the river, the mirrors, and the shadows all converged in his mind. Every mistake, every regret, every fear had led him here. He realized that he could not control everything, but he could control his heart and how he chose to act in the face of impossible odds. "I will not sacrifice either of you," Dawn said aloud, his voice strong. "I will find another way." The spectral queen's eyes flared with anger, and the chains around Saren began to glow brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Foolish mortal," she hissed. "The curse does not bend to stubborn hearts. It cannot be cheated." Dawn stepped forward again, closing the distance between himself and the chains. He focused on the glow beneath his collarbone, letting its light extend outward like a beacon. He spoke words he had learned in the forest, words of truth and courage, letting them flow from the deepest part of his heart. "I accept my fears, I accept my failures, but I will not let them define me. Saren, you are strong. And Leora, you are brave. Together, we are stronger than this curse, stronger than any shadow or doubt. I claim my choices, and I claim the love that guides me. I will not fail you." The chamber trembled violently. The queen shrieked, her form flickering, but Dawn did not waver. The chains of light began to fracture, sparks flying as they resisted the force of his resolve. Saren's eyes widened, hope mingling with fear, as she felt the pull of freedom. Leora squeezed his hand, a silent gesture of support and trust. "You can do this," she whispered. "We can do this, together." "I would nutta." Dawn focused every ounce of strength and courage he possessed. The glow from his collarbone spread through the chamber, touching Saren, Leora, and the spectral chains. The queen howled, a sound that shook the walls and rattled the air. But Dawn's determination only grew stronger. With a final surge of energy, he reached out and touched the chains binding Saren. The light from his collarbone flared, bright and pure, and the chains shattered into 1,000 fragments, dissolving into mist. Saren fell into Dawn's arms, weak but alive. He held her tightly, relief flooding through him. "You're safe," he whispered. "I've got you." "Ar. Ar. Ar." Leora stepped forward, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "You did it," she said softly. "You faced the curse, and you saved her." The spectral queen shrieked one last time before dissolving into the shadows, leaving the chamber silent except for the sound of Dawn's and Saren's breathing. The weight that had pressed on the castle seemed to lift, the darkness retreating as the light of courage, love, and truth filled the space. Saren pulled back slightly, her eyes meeting Dawn's. You didn't have to," she said, her voice trembling. "You could have chosen differently. Why did you risk everything?" Dawn smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief mixing in his expression. "Because I couldn't let fear or choice control me," he said. "Because both of you matter to me. I had to try." Leora stepped closer, placing a hand on Dawn's shoulder. "And you succeeded," she said. "Not just in breaking the curse, but in proving that trust and courage are stronger than magic and fear." Saren nodded, a mixture of gratitude and awe in her eyes. "Then, what now?" she asked softly. Dawn looked at both women, feeling the depth of the bond that had formed between them in the trials, the struggles, and the shared courage. He realized that the journey had changed him. His past regrets would always be part of him, but they no longer defined him. He could move forward, guided by love and trust. "We live," he said simply. And we face whatever comes next together. The chamber began to fade, the walls crumbling into dust as the forest outside Nirruin began to glow with the first hints of dawn. For the first time, the sun's light touched the land, painting the trees in gold and silver. Dawn stepped outside with Saren and Leora, feeling the warmth of the morning on his face, a stark contrast to the cold shadows of the castle they had left behind. Saren stretched her arms, still weak but smiling. "I never thought I'd see daylight again," she said softly. Leora's eyes glimmered. The forest has its trials, but even darkness can be broken by courage and love. Dawn looked at both women, a quiet smile on his lips. He had faced impossible odds, confronted his fears, and broken the chains of the curse. And through it all, he had discovered the power of trust, the strength of bonds, and the depth of his own heart. As they walked together through the forest, Dawn felt the pulse of his collarbone fade, leaving only a faint glow, a reminder of the journey, the pain endured, and the courage it had taken to face it. Saren walked beside him, free and alive, while Leora's presence remained steadfast, a guiding light through the lingering shadows. Yet even in this moment of triumph, Dawn could not shake the feeling that the world beyond Nirruin was vast and filled with challenges yet unseen. Shadows always lingered at the edges of light, and the lessons of courage, trust, and love would be needed again. Dawn tightened his grip on Leora's hand, feeling the warmth of life and loyalty. "Whatever comes," he whispered, "we face it together. We rise together." Saren looked at him, a small smile breaking across her face. "And I will not forget what you did. You saved me, Dawn. You saved us all." The three of them stepped out of the forest into the morning light, a new day unfolding before them. The trials of Nirruin had tested their hearts, their courage, and their bonds, but in the end, they had emerged stronger, united by love, trust, and redemption. And somewhere in the distance, the faint shimmer of shadows lingered, a reminder that the world held mysteries still, but also a promise. As long as they faced it together, no darkness could truly conquer them.